Ok, ahora empieza lo pim pam pum. Mazmorras, raids.
Hello, Blizzcon.
Let's go.
My name is Morgan Day, and I'm here to talk to you about some of the upcoming content, features, and systems in The War Within. I'm sure I'll also make some funny faces that I'll regret later in thumbnails, but whatever. First up, let's talk about dungeons. There will be eight new dungeons coming in The War Within, 4 during level up, 1 in each of the 4 zones that Maria just walked us through, as well as 4 at max level. There's a lot of really cool stuff happening in these dungeons. For instance, we have like a kobold dungeon where you'll meet that Candle King, where there's like a light mechanic that takes place. You have to kind of keep it going to light your way. There's a dragon riding dungeon, of course, but also
Dragon riding, ha dicho en vez de dynamic flying.
That Maria just talked us through. So this is a dungeon that takes place on our first zone, the Isle of Dorn, which is where you'll experience, all of our earthen buddies, and this is the place where they make that cinder brew mead that she was talking about. They take in all that honey that they gather from throughout the zone to make the mead, to do all kinds of fun and/or
Ojo, vamos a cargarnos abejas.
Although I do have to say, I feel like they're a little bit behind the times. I feel like all the kids are drinking that, hard seltzer or something these days, but whatever. They're old school, I get it. Next up, our raid, the Nerubar Palace. So this is an 8-boss raid that will take place in the zone.
Ojo, esta es la raid.
And this is really the culmination of all of those machinations we keep hearing about that we see play out between the Nerubian Empire, their queen, and her collaboration with Xal'atath. So for this next one, we don't normally show things this early, but I thought it'd be cool to share. On the left there, you can kind of see the top-down view of the raid. And on the right,
Bueno, ¿nos han enseñado ya el mapa? What? Vamos para abajo y luego para arriba.
On all of our dungeons and raids, when they still look like this, as it's much easier to iterate while we're in 2D than it is to kind of change the zones around once we're in the game and it's all blocked out. So to step us through the raid really quickly,
seguramente podrás tener monturas dentro o algo.
You'll very quickly fall and/or get knocked into one of those giant pits of that black blood of the old god that you'll hear much more about in Ajkahet. And then you'll battle your way through the harvest pits, and then finally traverse your way back up through the stalactite wing, which is not a final name, I promise, until you finally fight your way into the Queen's inner sanctum, where you'll come face to face with her as the end boss. So as you can see, this will kind of feel like a winged raid in terms of the vibes, but in terms of the player experience, it'll actually be quite a bit more linear than what you might be used to for a raid with some winged vibes. So something that I also think is fun to talk about really quick is with all of our dungeons and raids, we like to try to explore what is the thing that's going to make this space feel really unique, that's going to make it stand out from all the other times that we've built these dungeons and raids. And with this space, we really thought that, given that we have the Nerubian to play with, they've got all these amazing webs and silken threads that you can kind of traverse the zone through, we thought it'd be really fun to explore verticality as a major element to this raid. So I think that'll be really fun to see what the team comes up with for that. Next up, let's talk about systems. So I want to walk you through some of our features and systems at a really high level, but first I want to talk about some of the philosophies that are really guiding us to add these into the War Within. So first and foremost, we really want to continue to extend the philosophies of Dragonflight into the War Within. And really, when we talk about that, there's 3 main pillars that I want to touch on.
Venga, los grandes pilares.
We really want to make sure that we're focusing on evergreen features. We want to make sure that we're making World of Warcraft better forever and not focusing on things that we know we're going to have to leave behind as we move into future expansions. Next, we want to make sure that there's
cosas que se van a quedar por fin.
So whether you're a hardcore raider, a PvPer, a collector, or apparently like Holly, you just love to play tons of alts and run around the world exploring things, we want to make sure that there's something in War Within that you can really geek out over and that resonates with you. And finally, we want to make sure that we're continuing to build on our philosophy and build on our systems and content with people who play multiple characters in mind. We want to make sure...
es como el Lost Ark, vas a tener modo roster.
We want to make sure that we're building all of our systems to really respect the time of the player behind the keyboard and not focusing so much on the accomplishments of that individual character.
Bien, vamos a tener regreso de cuenta en vez
So
de
let's talk about
carácter.
delves. Delves are a new feature that will be
Ojo,
integrated
delve,
into the outdoor world experience, where the fantasy of these is actually that you'll be joining the Dragon Scale expedition in their search for lost treasures all across Kazalgar. So delves are an evergreen feature that is really integrated into that outdoor world experience. We want delves to be a new pillar of endgame content for those outdoor world explorers. We really view this as something like when we added World Quests back in Legion, where they are going to be really integrated and transformative into that outdoor world, especially that endgame loop. So one of the main reasons I'm stoked about delves is that these will provide an opportunity for us to, give seasonal content and rewards to those outdoor world explorers. So that means things like, rewards that you're used to, like mounts, achievements, titles, but we'll also be adding a outdoor row to the Great Vault with War Within.
Ojo. ¿Le puedes contar cosas a los alters?
So that all of you outdoor world explorers will be able to share in the joy of, rushing to the Great Vault every week to collect your loot. And there will also be 13 unique delves that we'll be launching War Within with. And delves will scale from 1 to 5 players and be role agnostic. So that means if you want to play a delve solo, that's totally cool. If you want to go with you and your partner, that works as well. Or you can bring your whole dungeon group in, and the delve will scale based on your group size and your roles. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of my favorite features of delves, which I think Maria alluded to earlier, which is that there will be an NPC companion joining you on all of your adventures. So for Season 1, that'll be Bran Bronzebeard, as you can see. And Bran will be tagging along with you on all of your adventures, and will totally never, not even once, aggro a pack of monsters that you didn't want him to. And I don't have my fingers crossed behind my back right now. So Bran will have a customizable talents and mechanics and abilities that you'll be able to kind of load out to suit your playstyle and needs. So, maybe you need a little bit of extra healing. Well, you can load Bran out to provide that for you. And finally, you wouldn't be exploring with the Dragon Scale Expedition if at the end of every delve there wasn't this massive treasure trove that we need Bran to open for us, which hopefully we got a couple of keys to open some of the chests in there. But before Bran can open that vault for you, you'll need to maybe defeat a boss, maybe you'll solve a couple puzzles, something like that. Bran will be able to open that vault door for you. Next up, let's talk about warbands. It's happening!
Warbands, let's go, roster!
So warbands are a system that we're introducing that will really be the representation of all of your characters across your Battle.net account. Warbands are an opportunity for us to create a platform where you can share your achievements, resources, and all that other good stuff across all of those characters. So the goal of this system is really to be that representation of the philosophy shift that I mentioned earlier about really respecting the time of the player behind the keyboards and not those individual characters. There's actually a ton of additions and modifications. We've talked about a few.
Bueno, super.
There's no singular UI screen that says warbands. It's more of like all these modifications and updates and features are like kind of wearing a big coat that says warbands on the back of it. It's how I kind of keep it head in my straight.
Habrán un montón de cosas de cuenta.
Just to talk about a couple of those cool features, we'll actually be revisiting the transmog rules of how you acquire those appearances in the War Within. So for all of you who have...
Tienes que ir siempre con Warrior porque es el único que puede equipar todas las armas.
All of you who have probably had to run 4 characters through all of those legacy instances just to make sure you're collecting all the appearances, that won't be the case anymore in War Within. You'll just be able to run it with 1 character.
Por fin. Joder.
And oh yeah, Holly mentioned this already, but this is obviously one that people are looking forward to. All of our reputations as well as renown in the War Within will be shared across your entire account. Last but not least, let's talk about hero talents. So here's a quick
Hero talents,
mock-up
a ver.
of what the UI will look like that I think really helps explain
Ah,
how
en
these
medio.
integrate into our current talent trees. But really quick, let's take a look at how this will work. So there will be 3 new hero talent trees per class.
Ojo.
And 2 will be available per specialization
Por
that you can
spec.
freely choose and swap between. And also, this is another evergreen feature. This is a system that we think is going to provide a new vector of choice and customization for you and all of your classes, as well as create opportunities for us to really dig into some of those core class fantasies that are, so amazing. So Hero Talents will introduce these new, small, self-contained talent trees like you just saw in the UI. And the way I like to think about it is like, currently we have 2 types of talent points, right? We have class talent points and specialization talent points. And now in the War Within, there'll be a 3rd type called Hero Talent Points. So let's look at a quick example, which hopefully explains it a little bit more. This is a warrior, as you can see. These are the 3 hero talent trees that they'll have available: Mountain Thane, Colossus, and Slayer. And as you can see in the top left, we have Protection, who will be able to choose between Mountain Thane and Colossus. Up on the right, you see Fury. Yep, that's right. Mountain Thane and Slayer are their options. And down at the bottom, Colossus and Slayer are their options. So this is how the majority of our classes are going to look in the War Within. The exception, of course, being Druids and Demon Hunters, who are a bit special, so theirs will look a little different. So let's take a look at how you'll unlock the system, as well as how it'll feel playing through as you're leveling through the War Within. So the system will automatically unlock at level 71, and it'll just kind of appear in your UI. You'll earn 1 talent point per level as you level from 71 to 80. And there are 10 talent points in total, with several choice nodes along the way.
Okay,
so I like to think of this as being similar to like the Legion artifact, where as you were leveling and progressing, you were making some choices along the way, but ultimately you're going to unlock the whole tree. And also, I want to be very clear here. These are extremely low friction to swap between those choice nodes, as well as to swap between the different hero talent trees.
Ah, pues como ahora, que puedes cambiar talentos cuando te dé la gana sin coste ni nada.
So, this should be very analogous to your current talent trees and will follow all the same rules that you used to there. So, at the start of a raid boss, before Mythic Plus starts, before an arena match kicks off, and anywhere in between. And to wrap us up, I wanted to show off a really quick video of what hero talents look like in action.
A ver.
So this is a warrior, as you can see, pop an avatar, jumping in. And this next one is
este es de protección, ¿no?
the Mountain Thane talent tree.
Mountain
As
Thane.
you can see, Stormbolt hits multiple targets. There's a couple cool new V effects.
Hay como
a lot of other cool stuff going on.
Cosas de rayos.
I heard some oohs. Our effects artists will be happy. So that about wraps us up for our What's Next panel.
Let's go.
We hope you really liked what you saw here, and if you'd like to know more, please join us tomorrow at the Deep Dive panel at noon, where Ian will walk you through some of what you saw today in more detail. Woo, Ian! As well as a bunch of other cool new stuff in the War Within. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a great BlizzCon. Bye!
Y aquí acabamos la parte esta.